US President Donald Trump has recruited high-profile lawyers to help him defend him during the impeachment trial, including the prosecutor who investigated Bill Clinton. The appointment comes as a shock to many, the president previously labelling him a lunatic.
Kenneth Starr's investigation and report into Bill Clinton's relationship with White House intern Monica Lewinsky led to the president's impeachment.
The facts have a real power to them.
Now the former special prosecutor is joining the current president's team, a surprise to some given Trump's comments in 1999.
I think Ken Starr is a lunatic. I really think that Ken Starr is a disaster. I hated the way the president handled it. It was a long and terrible process. I really think that Ken Starr was terrible.
In his first address in 8 years, Iran's supreme leader has called Donald Trump a clown and dismissed his critics as pro-American stooges. The Ayatollah also stood by his military, who has admitted to shooting down a plane, killing 176 people.
Defending his rule and his government, Ayatollah Khamenei was preaching to the converted. He used his first sermon in 8 years to unleash a vicious verbal assault on Donald Trump. These American clowns who with lies and utter evil say they stand by the Iranian people. They should see who the Iranian people are, he said. In London, a minute's silence for the victims on board the Ukrainian passenger plane that Iran's military shot down. A coalition of 5 countries who lost citizens in the crash, demanding a thorough international investigation.
The alleged highway shooter arrested in North Carolina tonight, accused of shooting at least 20 cars over 2 days. Tonight here, the images of shattered windows, and authorities now say the shooter is just 14. Here's Victor Oquendo.
This car window shattered by a suspected highway sniper.
It was still just mind-blowing and still shocking to say something like that.
It all happened along US 264 in North Carolina this week. Authorities say at least 20 passing cars were shot at and damaged with a high-powered pellet rifle. The Wilson County Sheriff says they started receiving calls yesterday morning, drivers reporting bullets blasting through their windows, others saying the sides of their cars had been damaged. Tonight, deputies arresting a 14-year-old boy, releasing these images of a nest made out of tree branches. That's where officials believe the teen hid and fired shots at passing cars.
Donald Trump says he wants the NATO alliance to do more. This is one way they can do that. These are the first NATO-owned and operated unmanned surveillance drones. The Global Hawk, based here in Sicily, can travel halfway around the world on 1 tank of fuel. It can stay up in the air for more than 30 hours, carrying out surveillance. And here, believe it or not, is the cockpit. On the ground at Sigonella Air Base in a side room with a sensor operator sitting here. And over here, the pilot flying the aircraft with just the click of a mouse.
Are you planning to travel by air to the U.S.? Before you leave Canada, you might find yourself interacting with an American customs officer. As of a few months ago, those officers working in Canadian airports were given expanded powers, like the power to interrogate you, detain you, even strip search you. The changes are part of Canada's new Pre-Clearance Act. Pantea Jafari is an Iranian-Canadian immigration lawyer. She joins us from Toronto. Hi, Ms. Jafari. Nice to see you. Thanks for making time for us.
The main problem is that the present scheme of the Pre-Clearance Act doesn't have any control mechanisms in it for travelers to hold U.S. officers accountable. So there's no recourse to Canadian courts because of the immunities built right into the system. Both the country of the U.S. and its officers will have pretty much blanket immunity.
Meanwhile, in the other big story that we are tracking on WION, it is being reported that as many as about 5,000 people could gather to protest outside the Indian High Commission in London on occasion of India's Republic Day. Now, Indian diplomats and also British Indians have sounded alarm bells, fearing that there could be vandalism and violence and damage to the Indian High Commission building in London on occasion of this protest. Now, according to reports, the Rise for Kashmir protest will take place yet again outside of the Indian High Commission on the 26th of January. The British authorities have said that they will review the security arrangements closer to the protest day after being prodded by the Indian diplomats in London.
Virginia declares a state of emergency ahead of a gun control rally in that state.
Virginia is on high alert after reports of credible threats of violence ahead of the state's gun rights rally.
We're seeing threats of armed confrontation and assault on our capital.
During a press conference Wednesday, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam announced a temporary state of emergency banning all weapons, including firearms, from Capitol Square.
This includes everything from sticks and bats to chains and projectiles.
Monday's event, which falls on Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day, is expected to draw thousands to Richmond, Virginia. As a result, Northam says the order was necessary to protect the public's safety over potential violence from groups who have opposed the state's tightened gun laws, which were backed by Democrat lawmakers.
This morning, a South Carolina woman is sentenced to over 20 years in prison after pleading guilty to killing her husband with eye drops.
I am truly sorry.
Prosecutors say, motivated by greed, nurse Lana Clayton secretly poisoned her wealthy husband by putting eye drops in his water for 3 days, taking his computer and phone so he couldn't call for help.
He lay there helpless Thursday and Friday, waking up periodically from his misery, thirsty, drinking more water.
Lana claimed her husband, Stephen Clayton, was abusive and that she poisoned him only once, hoping to punish, not kill him.
I did impulsively put the Visine in Stephen's drink, and I did it with the intent to make him sick and uncomfortable.
Our top story this evening, 4 South Korean climbers have gone missing in the Himalayas in Nepal. The Foreign Ministry said Saturday that the South Koreans have been missing since Friday morning local time. They were on the famous Annapurna trekking route when the area they were in was hit by an avalanche. The missing trekkers are 2 women in their 30s and 50s and 2 men in their 50s. The ministry says they are all teachers staying in Nepal for volunteer work. 5 other South Koreans who were with the group were evacuated safely. Reports say 3 Nepali nationals are also missing. The South Korean government has requested active search operations from the local authorities and dispatched an emergency team to Nepal to handle the case and provide support to the families of the missing.